Okay, hello again. Let us start. Let us begin. I'm very glad to welcome you at this webinar organized by Leah on Cascading Grants. My name is Egita Silniec-Ībema. I'm heading Latvian Innovation and Technology Office in Brussels, LatTech. And that's a technology representation helping Latvian companies and also ecosystem players like research centers, NGOs, cities to access EU funding and to help in that process. So this is one good example of how we can all get on one page about cascading grants, what's happening, what are the successes from Latvia already, to encourage all of us to look at it more closely. Before I give a floor to Isabella, from Funding Box, I would like to invite you to use chat to post your questions. Isabella will have now around 1 hour of introduction of the instruments, of course, Funding Box and everything that you would like to know about this cascading grants. After which I will just pick one question to reflect on what she's been talking. Then we give a floor to Vita Sture, who will give a nice example of how cascading grants been working for her company. And then we will have questions and answers from you. And I think this is a great opportunity to really nail our understanding and knowledge about what are these grants, what are they for, what is it, how they are useful, and why to look at them and how to apply. So without any further ado, I give the floor to Isabella Zrazinska from Funding Box, apparently calling in from Barcelona, which is great. And so the floor is yours, and please, dear audience, put your questions in the chats.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gita, for the introduction and for the invitation. It's true pleasure to be able to present you this good funding opportunity that hopefully will revolutionize the way of funding in the Europe. So just as the word of introduction, I mean, I've been already introduced, but I'm the senior project manager at Funding Box, and I'm leading also the AI cluster initiatives. So you will see today, I mean, on top of the Cascade funding, which is our focus and also specialization of Funding Box, I will share with you the opportunities in AI, okay? So I hope you find it interesting. But of course, you can see that I was also involved in different initiatives related with photonics, arc welding, or robotics. So please feel welcome also to connect with me on the LinkedIn. And about Funding Box. So what we do is we have this go-to funding platform for entrepreneurs, where we have now more than 50,000 innovators from all over the Europe that we gathered through management of this cascade funding opportunities. So these could be beneficiaries that participated in our projects and were founded, but also those that are interested and are looking sometimes for partners to be founded. And thanks to this ecosystem, we also bring, and well, it's attractive to the investors, to the research centers, or other stakeholders that are looking to connect with how we call them champions. No? So the champions are those that have been already founded, and I really hope you can also become one of them. So here you can see our specialization in Funding Box. So main topic is cascade funding management that we do through open calls that I will also describe today. So we have already managed a lot of projects with that element, and more than 100 million euro redistributed to the innovators. And then, of course, the community building that I mentioned that we gather around these projects. And we also do technology transfer activities that involves like business mentoring or market readiness in some of these programs. And then we also work closely with digital innovation hubs that are like the key connection on the regional level with SMEs, with small and medium companies. So all of this through through the European projects, most of them under Horizon 2020 scope. We are now like around 80 European projects where we are involved as coordinator or the partner. And you can see that we focus on multiple verticals from manufacturing, robotics, next generation of internet, which is also quite now a hot topic, digital innovation hubs, and artificial intelligence that I will tell you about today. But for instance, from manufacturing, Vita Sture is from that sector, no? Like she was founded from that, no? I thought that, yes, okay. But anyway, there are multiple opportunities, even though we'll focus today on AI. And coming back to Cascade funding concept. So as you can see, well, the Cascade funding was introduced by European Commission already some time ago. Indeed, we are pioneers in that. And the main idea of this is, I'm not sure, maybe you're familiar with the SME instrument grant that actually is like, if you apply, it requires a lot of documents. Sometimes company even hire the consultancy company to write the grant, to write the proposal. The process is very long, and at the end, it's like for the small company, it's quite difficult, no, to apply, and the chances actually to get funded are not that big then because there's a lot of competition. So I mean, that's why they came out with this Cascade funding opportunity. So that way, European Commission is funding the European project that usually is consists of 8, but up to can be even 50. But the partners that are companies that, well, each partner specialized in something. So there are research institutions that provide technical guidance and support. There are business, sometimes some prestigious business schools, no, that are providing business mentoring to the companies. There's also usually funding box that is leading the open calls and Cascade funding. So that allows like to create the project and support program for the SMEs that is diverse and includes all important elements. And this project, I mean, once founded by European Commission, usually has like part of the grant that has to go, well, has to serve to support SMEs, no, or well, applicants. And that is why they organize open calls to select such a beneficiaries for this funding. So it is very nice to see because like European Commission delegates the responsibility of redistribution of funding and actually supporting the SMEs, which is a bit more easier, and like it makes actually the project, it allows us to adapt a little bit more to the language and to the needs of smaller companies, no, and facilitate bureaucracy a little bit. But still, of course, you need to remember these are still European funds. So this European project is managing European Commission, and we follow all the rules, same as and beneficiaries as well. So we try to make it easier, but still we are under European Commission scope. And such a beneficiaries, as you can see, it could be SMEs that I was mentioning because this is the main, usually the main beneficiary in such a project. But also sometimes there is funding for startups, for individuals. It might be even funding for research centers. But the main focus, I would say 70% is on SMEs. So here is what I mentioned. So we are funding entrepreneurs, innovative startups, and users, universities, and research centers. But here you'll see also in my later presentation about different open calls, what I can mention that there is always something for someone, okay? So there are a lot of opportunities, different ones. So you really have to think what is your end goal when selecting the project. For instance, there are a lot of projects that support technology providers. So these are the innovative startups that are developing some solutions, some technology, and they want to they need support to boost it further. But there is also profile of adopters and users that is now also supported in many initiatives. And this funding is for companies that are thinking about adopting some technology in their process, but they don't know how, and they're looking for support. So I would say these are like these early adopters, we call them also end users, that often are also funded. Okay, so this is actually nice to see. That depends on what you need. There are different open calls. And selection process aims to be easy. Okay, usually for the proposal submission, depending of course on the complexity of the project, but it should take you from one day to maximum 1 week. Of course, it depends. And this is actually the end. When you submit the proposal, then we start all this process that usually takes 2 months. And well, the only thing that beneficiary gets on the way is, of course, the notification on your proposal passing or not to the next stages. Usually there are 4 stages maximum. And the first one, the eligibility check, is like automatic one, done based on the eligibility criteria, like geographic scope, you know, that most, of course, we are talking about European scope. So we review that. And of course, Latvia is within it. So you don't have to worry about that. Or well, some other issues that should be marked in the application form, but this is done automatically and you receive notification 1 day after the open call ends. And then most of the proposals pass, eligible proposal pass to the independent individual evaluation. And I would say that this is the most important part of the process. Because it is that, well, the consortium hires the experts in the domain. So it is important that this process is impartial, no? So we always hire the external evaluators that read the proposals and they score the proposals. And based on that, we get the ranking that through which we can continue the selection process. But this is very important for us that we have these external experts in the domain that give us the guidance on which proposal has the biggest potential. And then once we get these scores, that we have a consensus meeting just to check if this proposal, this ranking is aligned with the project scope. And then usually sometimes there is jury day in case, well, the project needs it. So that is when we invite the selected proposals either to the personal event, but sometimes there are online events to present their proposals. And we ask some additional questions before the final decision is made. And those final winners are selected to the formal check, where we review issues like ethics or also the SME status. So that's when we ask for some documents just to check the status of the company that will be founded before we sign the subgrant agreement. So as I mentioned, proposal submission itself, it's 1 week maximum, and then all the process is around 2 months, okay, until we publish the results. And those that are selected enters the support program. So it's not only about the funding, it is actually about making the proposal, what is planning proposal, happen. So you can see here the example. Of course, the duration depends on the technology. For instance, in robotics, we are working with hardware. Sometimes the projects, it's one year of the duration of such a support program. In case of AI, it's half a year usually, so it really depends. But what's important here, and what I wanted to pay your attention to, is that when you apply and you have this grant that usually we say with big letters, like that it's 70,000 euro or 100,000 euro, you have to be aware that when you enter to the program, it is not paid everything at once to your account. Okay, so there are milestones that each selected proposal or project has to complete. Okay, and then the payments are released. So after, usually there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and at the end of each stage, there are some KPIs and documents that has to be delivered. And based on that, the project partners review that and the payment can be released. So this also allows us to control, because you will be reviewed against your progress mates, no? And then the funding is being released. And of course, these KPIs and what will be done and milestones are agreed at the beginning in this inception phase. That is when you get the mentor, you speak about, you agree on the individual mentoring plan, where you include things like KPIs, planned budgets, and what has to be done. So everything is always aligned at the beginning, but important to remember. So that is about Cascade funding concept. I just wanted to maybe add 4 last points why it is a good way to fund the innovations. Well, first of all, it's efficiency of the application process. As I mentioned, we are trying to adapt these open calls and application form and all the documents to SMEs, to applicants. Okay, so we really try to adapt to the sector and to the language of who it's dedicated to make it easy. Impartiality of the process. So this was, this was mainly covered with the external evaluations that I mentioned, but basically what it's important here that there is never like one person that makes the decision, everything is democratic. So through the external evaluators to the consortium, that any kind of decision is always made by selection committee. So there is always this impartiality in this. Then also the growing network. So I believe what I mentioned, that it's nice that these projects are created by multiple partners with a different experience. So that allows us to boost this technology from different points of view. And also the facilitation of the adoption of new digital technologies. So this is, I would say, generally a big mission of all of these projects, to create also support programs. It's not that are dedicated. So in many cases, the SMEs do not have access to research centers with big infrastructure to these researchers, and there's a big gap. And for these projects, I believe you have a contact, because usually the technical mentors are coming actually from research centers. So this is very nice to see how these SMEs and smaller players can work with the bigger ones and bring actually these innovations and adoption towards. So I believe these are really good reasons to apply to this Cascade funding opportunities. And you can see, well, I was already mentioned that in Funding Box, we manage many of them, not only AI. So I believe there was already a link in the chat posted to the Money Box, where you can find all the opportunities that are open now. But of course, if you join our newsletter, you can actually receive, or community, you will receive updates every month about what's coming. So it's really worth to keep an eye on that and to see if there are any fitting opportunities for you. And now we reach the artificial intelligence focus. So as I mentioned, we have a small subdivision in Funding Box concentrated on AI. That I wanted to present to you. So of course, we are part of this big experience. We have our brain with this big experience of the funding redistribution and champions selected since 4 years. So let's say we are working with AI. Here you can see a bit our roadmap from that. So we started with coordinating Robot Union project that was focused on robotics. Then there is this AI for EU initiative that actually, if you're interested in AI, it's a key initiative, I would say, to pay attention to, because European Commission is building this AI on demand platform through this project, and then there will be another one launched soon. That aims to bring all the stakeholders to the platform and facilitates the use of AI between researchers, but also the SMEs and early adopters. So that is something where we were engaged and we keep promoting. And from that, we also joined another initiatives that I will present you today. And we have created this AI focused community around that. We partner, I can skip that because I already mentioned that these projects are always created with diversity of the partners. So here you can see the example of this in case of AI, of the research centers that are engaged in these initiatives, but also associations like Big Data Value that is important in AI, or digital innovation hubs that are a key element for us to connect with regions, with local ecosystems. And here are these 3 initiatives. I already mentioned digitalization. So it is again here, the digitalization mentioned, and we want to do it through implementation of AI. So this is one of the parts of this. And you can see that I will pass one by one through these initiatives so you can see which one fits best to your needs and also to give you the example on how these open calls are structured. So for this year, 2022, we have BONSAPS, iEnergy, and Starway. And starting from the scope and role of the applicant of these initiatives, here you can see that in case of BONSAPS and Starway, BONSAPS is focused on deep edge AI. So this is important element. Like the parallel objective of this project is creating the marketplace where SME can go. There will be like building blocks that they can use to actually implement easily the deep edge AI solution to their ecosystem. So this is, the final goal, the big picture. But through that, we want to support the SMEs, okay, that will actually help us to test this bonsai marketplace. And through that, it's a win-win situation because the SME will be using the marketplace resources, but also will be developing the customized solution with our support for itself. So this is the adopter profile of the applicant. And same applies to the Starway project, where there is no marketplace to be tested. And there is bigger focus on these low-tech users that need support in the broader sense. So it says Starway has broader scope. And then in iEnergy, it's the only one that is a bit different because there, of course, focuses on application of AI in energy sector. But here you will see the role of applicant is different because here we are looking for this technology provider. So the SME that is already working on some kind of the solution that could be applicable to energy. And this SME should apply with the data provider or infrastructure provided that is like kind of end user for this experiment. So these are only the examples. Focusing on adopters, you can see here how it works. So the adopter is the SME that defines the use case, define the problem, they apply, they receive the funding, and for this funding, they can contract external services like AI specialists, we call them AI talents, or high power computing centers that is also needed for AI. And of course, everything under the guidance of BONSAPS, or Starway, because these two projects are similar in this context. Okay, so this is like why we call them adopter, because adopters not necessarily need to know exactly about the AI development because they will get support in that. Okay, so we have the ecosystem that allows us to support SME with these AI experts needed. And in iEnergy, this technology provider and data provider looks like this. So basically the SME, the innovator, developed some technology. They have some data owner or pilot infrastructure provider that can be any kind of institution. So they have to find themselves. We have some events, matchmaking events before that to boost these synergies and to find the consortia. And then they can apply together and they get a grant together. Okay, so these two institutions get a grant for execution of such a technology transfer project. So this is the scope. About the legal status, I already mentioned that almost 70% of the grants include or are dedicated to SMEs. And this is also the case of these initiatives. So in case of BONSAPS and Starway, it is always individual SME. In case of iEnergy, I mentioned we are looking for consortia where a technology provider needs to have this SME status. In case you don't know what's the SME status, here we have a definition. Of course, I always recommend to refer to the European Commission documents about that, but in the simplest way, you have to look on the headcount, so people hired in your company, that it should be less than 250, and at your annual turnover or balance sheet that also have 50 or 43 million of limit. Important tip also from my experience, pay attention if you are not associated with some bigger company. Sometimes it happens that you are like subdivision or you have some connection, because sometimes it might also influence your SME status. So We have in each open call, there's always the reference on how to review it well, in case you are in doubt about your status. And so, yeah, this is quite important to review it before you apply. And then, of course, I mentioned the European scope, geographic scope. So your company should be established in European country or associated. And support program and grant vouchers. So what are the benefits actually of each of these initiatives? So in case of bond subs and Starway, it's up to 74,000 euro for the 6-month program, okay, for the execution of this program. That includes partially also the voucher to contract these AI experts and high power computing services. And in case of iEnergy, it's up to 100,000. But as you remember, it's divided between 2 partners. So at the end, it's almost the same. And the program is a bit longer. Usually when there are 2 partners and implementation parts to end user, the program is longer. So that's why 9 months in case of iEnergy. And here you can see also this, this voucher for AI talents that I mentioned. I will not get into the details, but just to mention that most of the project, they have just the direct grant, and it's called lump sum. So that means that, as I mentioned at the beginning, you get paid per milestones that you achieve, and the grant is paid directly for the execution of this grant. What is useful, or the tip for the Cascade funding grants, is that also to facilitate this process, you have to know that we are reviewing your performance in such a support program, but we don't review your accounting. So we don't ask beneficiaries for invoices, for timesheets, anything like this. Okay, that is called, it's called lump sum. But of course, we will just review the execution of the project. But what's important that, of course, it's still the European funding. So we always warn to the beneficiaries that they should keep records, because in case of audit, the beneficiary is responsible to present that. Okay, so we do not overwhelm ourselves with bureaucracy to allow the execution, but beneficiaries, the SMEs always have to try to have that for the audit reasons and to be able to justify the spending of the grant. So this is for lump sum. And then we have vouchers in some projects like Bonsaps or Starway. And these are dedicated part of the grant that are reimbursed for contracting external services. So in case of Bonsaps and Starway, you have this pool of 39,000 euro, from which you can contract the AI experts. We have more than 200 of them in our ecosystem. So we help you to match with them and to contract them and pay for the work done to get this AI solution developed. And here is also, in case you are one of them, I wasn't sure if we have only the adopters or also the potential AI experts in this webinar. So I also leave you the links, because we are building this ecosystem of the external providers through expressions of interest. So this is much easier than open calls, because you just submit your offer. If it fulfills minimum requirements, you get validated, and then you can be engaged in one of the programs if the SME, if you're matched with SME, right? So this is more like building the pool of the experts or providers that could be engaged in our programs. So this is the overview. I'm not sure it was not overwhelming in general, but you can see that there is a little bit for everyone. There are adopters, there are technology providers, there are programs that are longer or shorter with different types of funding. So you really should focus on what is your need and apply, of course, before the deadlines. So here you can see that for Bonsaps, the deadline is in 4 weeks, on 2nd November. But there's still time to write the proposal. As I mentioned, it should be around maximum 1 week. And then Starway and iEnergy will launch next week, I believe, and have a deadline by the middle of December. So I invite you to have a look on these initiatives. And in case you have doubts on which one match better, we have this, I call it Tinder for projects where you can answer some questions and we'll try to guide you which initiatives could be the best. Of course, it's not like too much accurate because we don't enter to the details, but at least to like orient yourself, you can enter our website and try to find your match with one of these AI initiatives. And for the 2023, I will not get into that much details like with the 2022 proposals, but you can see that we have upcoming within this AI cluster, AI Hub, we'll have the interconnect initiatives also for adopters for interoperable applications and services in smart homes and grid domains. So it is still also quite energy oriented. Then we have ELISE that is quite broad for the AI applications with support of ELISE Association. This is one of the biggest research associations for AI. So this is also a very nice program to get support. And then we have Secure IT for the cybersecurity solutions. And then we are looking for demonstrators. So again, same as in iEnergy, we're looking for consortia of 2 partners. One will be tech provider and another the end user. So here it's also, all these initiatives will launch at the beginning of 2023. And I'm not sure if I still have time, Ejita, for use cases. Yes, okay. So now, well, I wanted to show you the results now of this, of some of the funded projects, just to give you the example of our champions, how we call them. So one is from the Robot Union project, well, my favorite project, I have to admit, when we are supporting the robotics. Okay, so here it's a typical example of the company that applied. They were developing these collaborative robots designed to approach customers in stores or in aeropuertos, I'm telling in Spanish, in the ports, no, in the plane ports. So
airports, yeah.
Airports, sorry, I got stuck with that word. So, so yes, they had these robots, and at the end during the project, it was very interesting because they were working with TU Delft. It's a big research center in Netherlands. And together with their mentor, they find out that we can actually reshape a little bit their focus. So they started also to work with the supply chain in the magazines, where they could actually also monitor this shelf monitoring focus. And we matched them with the institutional operation director in Carrefour. So he could actually like advise them on how to enter to this business, to this sector. And of course, here you can also see they got funding on 150,000 and 12 months of technical support. And at the end, it was great success. Here you can see that they were very happy with, it's their feedback directly. They were very happy about such a dedicated, the robotics program and focus and specialists that were engaged in this project. And I can proudly say, well, they finished 1.5 years ago, but of course it takes time, like from the moment when they reach this minimal value product level or prototype level to get to the market and raise investment. So that's why usually it takes 1 year after the project ends. And they recently got closed a round of 30 million of funding. So this is really great success on how we support the companies in the initial stage when actually, I think I mentioned that of course this funding is equity free. So we don't take any equity from the startups, from SMEs when they start to build the product, and then they can, once they enter to the private investment, they have a bit easier structure to enter to the negotiations and the product ready with this support. So this is a very nice example of the robotics. And then coming back to the AI, here you can see one of the adopters supported in the first open call of Starway that has closed. They are now still in ongoing program. I think they will finish in 3 months. They got 60,000 euro to solve the challenge. I mean, some of these projects has predefined challenges that sometimes industrial sectors are helping us to define. And this was the health challenge, okay? And they are developing the chatbot for lingual AI treatment in oncology rehabilitation based on lingual analysis and real-time sensing. So of course, well, this is one of the example of the applications. We have this challenge defined by one of, I believe it was one of the hospitals in Spain. And well, this is the solution that this company helped them to develop. And then in Bonsap's, here, for instance, the first open call was dedicated to these innovators, to AI talents. So we have selected the Elif Lab from Italy, and they've been working on the collision avoidance challenge. It is in the robotics sectors, but at the end, it is also applicable, for instance, to the autonomous vehicles. So basically, they came up with the solution that allows to autonomously activate the right indications to avoid the obstacles now in the navigation. So this is also a big challenge in the AI. And they developed some solution that was published on this Bonsai's marketplace and hopefully will be reused by adopter SMEs that we are looking for now in this second open call that is open. So these were the examples from robotics and AI. I hope you like them. And well, I wish you also the success to become one of them. And I'm not sure, Gita, I think we will launch the Q&A after Vita's presentation, right? So.
Yes, Isabella, thank you so much. Just to clarify, so you've of course focused, as we agreed, on AI calls. Would you agree that it's good to visit the Funding Box website because there's a whole range of different projects that have cascading grant calls?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned, there's manufacturing, well, very, very different, very big diversity. So I invite you to check Moneybox first to have a bigger view. And well, if you like any of the AI, then you can get already directly to the AI hub, you know, but Moneybox and Funding Box is the biggest scope.
Perfect. And just one question that I raised also from the audience. So you mentioned that 70% is for startups, but would you say that there are also cascading grants that are for the large companies?
Yes, sometimes they can be involved. For instance, as you could see from this INRG that I was describing. So if there is a big company that is a data provider, they can apply, but there's always a focus on SME. So at the end, even if they apply as consortium partner, the SME will get the grant and will have to agree with the corporate. Okay, so we pass you this part of the money of the grant for your work, but we always like the funding should get to the SMEs usually. So corporates are usually less focused, but there are some.
Great. Okay, thank you. So again, I remind you that put your questions in the chat for the Q&A session after the next presentation. Also, if you feel that there are people in your network that should have heard this presentation, but they are not here, we are recording it. So the recording will be available together with the presentations on the Business Gov.lv website next to this event. Announcement of this event. So feel free to forward that afterwards in your network, in your communities of businesses. But now I give a floor to Vita Sture, who is heading Semantic Intelligence, a Latvian company who is a beneficiary of Cascading Grants. So really curious to hear the person from as a beneficiary experiencing this process of getting and what was the value of this grant to you. Vita, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Vita Sture and I am the CEO and founder of Semantic Intelligence. And we are an AI technology company born in commercialization reactor, which is largest deep tech startups accelerator in Baltics. So we are on a mission to actually help companies accelerate new drug discovery, particularly focusing on the IP intelligence. So I will give you a little bit insights what problems we are trying to solve, and then I will tell you a little bit more what we achieved during the BOWI project. So there is no secret that the new drug discovery is quite expensive. It costs about $2 million of US dollars and takes about more than 10 years. And there is a secondary level of the problems, which is, for example, more for the small and medium-sized players. For example, the professional patent search tools in biochemistry are quite expensive and not accessible for the small guys. Usually, the access fees for these platforms cost between 20 and 50,000 euros per user per year. And there is another problem, which is a growing number of patent applications. So currently there is more than 135 million patent applications already published. And also the patents are actually becoming more and more complex. And this turns actually the searches, patent searches, into a very time-consuming process. Besides the small guys, there is new leaders in industry, and there is a companies who is adopting AI technologies for the drug discovery. And these companies are actually more faced with different type of problems. For example, the leading companies in this field, they can generate about up to 10,000 new molecules per day, applying different AI technologies. And for them, the main problem is actually how they can actually quickly validate novelty for these newly designed compounds. And for them to quickly decide which compounds are getting to the next R&D stage is very crucial. So the problem for them is actually that existing biochemistry solutions are mostly using different type of searches, and they are not suited for such high volume searches. So what we did, we are actually working on AI-driven IP intelligence engine for the drug discovery, which is built on our state-of-the-art technology combination, which actually allows to quickly search, analyze, and extract complex knowledge on chemical, biological interactions in patents. So, for example, the user can search for the entities like chemicals, proteins, genes, diseases, and what is more importantly, we help them identify the complex relationships between them. So in order to drive this engine forward, we have quite extensive AI tech behind it. So we are combining 5 AI technologies together, blending them into the one approach. So we use natural language processing, machine learning, and deep linguistic analysis for the textual search, for the textual analytics. And during the last few years, we also introduced chemical structure processing and image recognition. And this is very important because, for example, the USPTO database, where the patents have also the attached MOL files, you need to analyze them as well. And for the patents where you have, for example, the molecule or compound in as a picture, you need to have very high quality image recognition. So yes, so our engine is working. We are implementing currently the largest patent database, which is commercially available, combining a lot of patent documents and obtaining the documents, patent documents from more than 100 countries. So the main idea behind our technology is that we are changing the way how IP intelligence is done in pharmaceutical world. So for example, to give you an idea how it works, for example, as an input for searcher or the user could be, for example, a particular molecule with this particular substructure. We are combining that with the disease, for example, in this case, breast cancer. And we are adding a STAT3 inhibitor as a third element of the search. And as the output, user can obtain the list of documents which are ranked by the relevance score based on the strength of the relationships. So in a BOVI project, which we have been working in 2021 mainly, we have one main goal or aim. We wanted to develop AI-driven life sciences data curation technology module, because the main problem why these biochemistry search platforms are so expensive, because behind them there is a large department of the people working manually and extracting the information from each new patent document. So our aim was to automate, fully automate this particular task. We wanted to achieve high accuracy and also improve our scalability performance. So with the help of our mentor, we divided our work into 5 tasks. We also defined 25 KPIs, which was the highest KPI score in that particular goal. Basically, we divided our work in several steps. First one was the requirement specification and KPI definition. Then was the main part of the implementation of the software. Then we did experimental setup, and finally the demonstration of the module. And of course, the business development things are happening in the parallel. So the project duration was 10 months. So we were very actually happy about the outcome because, first of all, because we got this BOVI support to actually develop this crucial model for us, which is doing a very important job and help actually human experts to reveal noisy annotations in their workflows. We used information extraction methods which are based on deep neural unsupervised models such as BERT transformers, and we achieved more than 95% of accuracy, which is a level at which human experts actually are working. So currently, this developed module in a form of API is integrated in our flagship product or the service, which is IP Intelligence Engine. So here you can see like drawing of what part actually we included in this particular project. Yeah, and as I was asked to share some tips for the project execution, I would say that there is like 2 parts. First is be prepared and always ask for help. So for the preparation part, I assume it depends from the call and the project, but we did quite technical development part of for our solution. So what we actually liked about this particular call, that we submitted overall technical concept, what we will do, defining the main activities that we want to complete. And then after our project was actually approved, we worked for the TAR form, which is Technology Application Roadmap, which was super detailed document, which has all information about your KPIs, about your activities, and everything is in a very detailed level. So you know where you are at your side, and for example, the funding box team knows where you guys are at a particular time point. Yes, Isabella already commented on the financials. So this is quite a big question for the companies who is at the pre-revenue stage. So you need to, it's not a lump sum upfront. So it's aligned with the milestones that you achieve during the project. So you should be aware that there will be a financial contribution from your side as well. And the last thing, be patient, because it takes more time as we plan it, as we assumed, but it's a EU funding, so there is some how to say, bumps in the road, and some things are not happening as fast as you would like. Yes, so we what I would suggest that you should always use your mentor support. For example, we had Ines Murnece as our mentor, and we had quite good contact with her, and we always, if we had some questions or some doubts, we always could ask her for the help, and we always get it. And also these projects actually opens you a new doors, so you should rely on available network to actually access new connections and ask for meetings, ask for warm introductions, and collect feedback from the potential industry partners or potential customers. And we actually got quite good feedback from one of our potential customer segment, which is academical institutions. Yeah, so this is the main, how to say, all from my side. If you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer that.
Great, Vita, thank you so much. I have a question. So your project is now still ongoing?
No, it's we already finished it. Yeah, so the result is already integrated in our flagship service.
So how would you analyze? Was it very useful for developing of your product now?
Absolutely, because this automatic data curation actually allows us to enable our end users to access our platform for a very low cost. So we have like two segments. So the one is the big guys who is applying AI and developing lots of molecules. It's a different approach, and also for them this is very useful. But these companies are very well funded, so the financial side is not maybe the main question for them. From the other side, what we see that we want to allow also the small and medium-sized companies and organizations, and in many times also the universities and academical organizations to use such platform. Because we are introducing this this automatic data curation, we can actually enable them to access our platform for a low cost comparing to the existing solutions in the market.
Excellent. It sounds really good, and it proves the observation of many and also of myself that the EU funding provides the possibility to lower the cost of products.
In our case, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really your case really proves that, and it's encouragement to all Latvian companies to innovate with EU funding.
Yes, absolutely.
Otherwise, the innovation costs go to the customer price, and in this case, it's not the case. Fantastic. So now we start the question and answer session, which will start with the poll of questions. So in your screen, please just answer them in parallel of our question and answer session. So I see some questions already in the chat. Let me just begin with that. How do you choose independent evaluators, Isabella?
That's perfect. Thank you. Yes, for the evaluators, as I mentioned, as the projects are created by the prestigious companies, research centers, when we search for the evaluators, usually that is the first step, like to contact and to identify the potential experts. Of course, they have to confirm that they are independent to the project partners. So that is a key for us, like to be. So they sign the contract. This is called a code of conduct of no conflict of interest before we start the work. And also, like, just because it's, I think many companies ask us, They also signed the confidentiality clause. So of course, these are external experts that are very interested to see the innovation, but they keep the secret after reviewing the proposals and the companies.
Okay, great. Another question, what is the success ratio in the call? How would you describe it in average? Of course, every call differs, but what is generally the success rate for the individual participant?
Yes, indeed, that was my first point to mention, that each call is different and each sector is different. So I would say that, of course, in the sectors like manufacturing, I would say the ratio is higher because we get less application. It's quite difficult to get manufacturing industry that is less digitalized. So sometimes they are not still in the ecosystem. And then in the like robotics or AI, we get more applications. So the success rate is lower, because we always have limited numbers of the funding that we can redistribute. And I think there's actually one question on how many SMEs in average receive such a funding. So I can already answer that it's usually per open call, it can be from 10 up to 20. Okay, in the funding is the average funding, I would say it's 60, 70,000. So we talk about general numbers.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Also, for example, you mentioned one of the open calls are expecting the consortium of 2 partners to participate. Is there a limitation? Can both parties be from one country, one region?
Yes, in most of the project there is no limitation on that, but there are some, like I think there is one that is open now, Smart for All, that actually is obligation because they want to enhance this collaboration. So here again, usually I would say 70% it's not required, but sometimes might be.
But that's very good also news that for those who see the partner in your ecosystem, for example, in Latvia, you can partner with them and apply for the call in grants. So you don't need an international partner necessarily, but that's of course indicated in each call separately. But I think because often when you think of consortia, you think of the big international clubs of partners, but the point of ours today that this is much easier to apply. So you can even make a consortia with the partner across the street, basically in your ecosystem. In meanwhile, thank you very much for for answering our questions in the poll. Well, Isabella can practice her Latvian because of course it's in Latvian, but yeah, thank you very much for the high evaluation provided. So let's just end the poll. And I see, yeah, Christina is asking very, very precise questions about cascading grants. What services are normally offered for SMEs and startups with cascading funding?
Mm-hmm. Like within the support programs that I mentioned, so usually the focus is on technology, of course. So also depending on the support program, it could be either like in this robotics one that I gave you example, where you actually have a researcher from research institution working hand to hand with the startup, and also the research centers are giving the infrastructure even to test this robotic solution. So that was, for instance, very detailed and like very advanced in case of the support. But sometimes the support is the technical mentor that is meeting on monthly basis and is guiding the startup on this, where to go and what to do, with some consultations and trying to connect the dots. But there is no like such a technical person like being hand to hand with the startup. So you should read always the support program definition, okay, because it also differs. Sometimes you have to be more independent in your work and we just support you with advice, but sometimes there could be advanced support where you actually work with you hand to hand. And then also, well, there's business support always, usually coming in the latest stage, just to like let technology first focus on that. And then usually in the stage 2, we have business support. And that contains with like, customized match with some business oriented person, it depends on your focus. If you need advice in investment, then usually we match you with investor. If it's more commercial strategy that you need, like we can match you like with person from that sector where you want to sell your product. No? So if you need legal advice, then we match you. So business support is usually more customized, and you have like pool of mentoring sessions, around 10 up to 20 even, depends on the length, that supports you with also business definition. These are usually the typical support.
So very well. Are there more questions? Maybe to Victor, do you know of, as you're part of the commercialization reactor community, do you see some traction of that community for the cascading grants? Are there maybe doubts that typically arise, or is there any dynamics towards the cascading grants in that community maybe?
Yeah, so the deep tech startups are quite a rare breed, I would say. And the main challenge for them is actually to survive until they will launch something commercially. And I think from that point of view, as far as I know, that many of our community startups actually are relying on our, let's say, EU funding from the various instruments. So from that point of view, the cascading grants are very good instrument to actually support their development and get them a little bit closer. We are kind of not talking here about large sums, but for the startups which are actually just starting out, even the small steps, what you can actually achieve, it's provides a great impact. So yeah, I think that for very technology-oriented startups where there is a lot of how to say R&D, what should be done or product developed until it's ready actually for the commercialization, it's a very good opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, for deep tech, I think your is the best place where to grow and to get like-minded people, I believe. And I've also been happy to cooperate with you on ESC accelerator access, and I think there's lots of opportunities. However, the challenges are right that the company still needs to survive until the EU procedure is getting through, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's, I hope Leah is helping with some instruments, but yeah, that's that I understand also is the biggest challenge really, because the deep tech investment is much longer than the other type of.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay, Mari asks, can you tell us of those projects that are supporting production? Can you think of some calls or where to find them that are particularly for, I guess, manufacturing? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm pretty sure from like just from the memory, but I think we have Better Factory projects just had launched the second open call. For sure, it's published in this money box. And it's quite interesting. I mean, there is the challenging consortia because it's consortia of manufacturer, of technology provider and artists, which is very interesting component. But what is good that they have this very advanced matchmaking procedure. So you can just apply as one of these types of institutions, and then the project will do the match like before the open call. So it is very well organized on that, like to avoid that this complicated consortia as it seems so. So that is for production because it's called Better Factory. So indeed, we are trying to implement, many of the projects are trying to implement like robotics or automatization in factories. So Better Factory. Then there is another one that is Shop for CF that I believe it's also now launched. And these are main two that I have in mind, but for sure in the money box you have also, I think for the manufacturing, we have also Amulet, but I don't remember exactly what. So definitely you should go to Moneybox and then you will see the currently open opportunities. And if not, I4MS initiative, it's a good point to start because they are focused on manufacturing and they gather all the initiatives, even those that are not covered by Funding Box. So quite a wide scope that you can find in that community.
Great. Okay, more questions in the audience. I see that I think we managed to go through the ones in the chat. And if that's the case, then I'd like to thank both speakers to find the time and also really share very valuable knowledge that you have with the tips and tricks, so that I think it's useful for anybody who looks at the calls and now they know to whom to reach out. Also, again, I want to remind that the recording of this this session and the presentations will be available on business.gov.lv portal next to this event. And stay tuned to the other events that are posted on this portal, other events on the EU funding, but also on export promotion and other topics really for Latvian businesses. I'd like to invite you also to reach out to LATTEC, to my office, if your company is analyzing currently various EU instruments, and my consultation might be help to guide you through or to try to narrow down your fields of interest or your chosen instruments. So by emailing or by writing an email or calling me to me, or also I invite you to follow LATTEC LinkedIn page, where we advertise the latest interesting calls that are less popular and the related news and events. And in the end, I'd like to say that we thank you all the audience that stayed with us on this Friday afternoon. Unfortunately, after event drinks, we have to do all in our own offices and homes where we are. That's a negative side or effect of the webinar. But indeed, we all deserve a round of applause being so dedicated to what our passions are. And that means that we are one step closer to successful cascading grant application than the others. So exactly, already great. So with this, thank you so much all, and see you next time. Have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.